Creating a finest home comes with vision, a dream, and more often than not, innovative thinking. Even when met with the limitations of renting, having the determination to place your own unique stamp on a temporary space can lead to some innovative decisions. South African homes have really come into their own over the last few decades. Generic imitations have made way for modern masterpieces and character-filled spaces. Finest Homes explores some of these creations, talking to the visionaries that's bringing them to life. Join us as we explore some of these spaces, showcasing the interior design, architecture, and landscape design. Today's finest home is a seafront apartment that came with a brief that challenged the concept of renovation, as its inhabitants are tenants that were looking to create their own finest homes, be it as a short-term rental. To help with this transformation, Thomaz of Curacion Interior was called in. Armed with years of experience and a plethora of design solutions, Dylan was able to assess the bones of the apartment and offer impactful solutions that would see this apartment updated to a chic, pared-back abode. Hello!
So good to see you.
Good to see you
and
too.
You.
Oh, how are you, Dylan?
Good. Come on in.
Oh my goodness. Listen, any room or space that you're a part of, I know is going to be glorious. I love it.
That's too kind, so kind.
You have to tell me, how did you get involved with this particular space? How did it come to be?
So it's actually an existing client. We've done previous houses for them and they've decided to get this apartment for summer holidays here in Cape Town.
Okay.
And it was pretty atrocious.
Really?
It was the worst space I've ever seen. And he asked to come in, create some magic. And we've tried to do that, yeah. But as a rental, he wanted to change it up as a temporary fix so that he can still live in a great space, but without actually having to spend the hard-earned cash to change the physicality behind it. So we did a lot of innovative thinking here to make sure that we can return it back to its original state without major construction.
All right, well, you got to take me through some of the atrociousness and how you changed it.
Yeah, it was really, really bad. It was like the 80s had stuck in time. No jokes, Leanne. It was really, really, really bad. The kitchen was a bit old. All the vanities were terrible. The whole color of the house here was brown. It didn't have the ocean, which we'll see just now, as the main focal point. So we really wanted to take it and calm it down, but also wanted it to feel, as you walk through the door, to just feel like you were lost in time, that you could be anywhere in the world, without it feeling like a really bad rental.
But I love the idea. I mean, this is a tenant, right, that lives here, that was given the opportunity to make these changes. Is that something that happens quite often or not really?
With a great landlord, it can. Yeah, with a great landlord. I think my clients also wingled it in a bit to make sure he extended it for a couple of years. So just to make sure that he has peace of mind.
Now, you know, I'm always fascinated to know what the brief was from the client/tenant.
So I love the question. So our client is really great. He is super chilled and he was sold by the feel that we were giving him more than anything else. And he literally gave us carte blanche, which is really unique for most projects because a lot of clients want to be involved with all the little details. So with this project, all I wanted to do was create a very clean space. Because it is an apartment, it's quite compact. So how spaces interact with each other was really important. And then how could we also take it from a rental and make it into something that it was pre-planned and actually built for what we see today.
Talking about the fact that we're in an apartment right now, we are working with a smaller space. How does one adequately use a space like this? Because what are we looking at, 160 square meters?
Yeah,
okay.
It's crazy, right? It's really, really crazy. But I think how you can utilize it is to make sure that each space talks to each other, which I think is really important. And I think the best place to start is in the kitchen, because that is generally the heart of the home, right? So come and have a look.
What did you do with the kitchen? How did you go about updating it?
So it was really challenging because we weren't going to change any of the structural elements of the kitchen. So this 80s look we had to incorporate into a more classic, timeless feel. So looking at the stone, which is very limiting from a design point of view, and I really did want to rip it out, but obviously I couldn't. I thought about how could we take this color and work it throughout the whole apartment. So this definitely was the starting point for me. So we added this black detailing throughout the cabinetry, which also lends itself to the paneling detail throughout the house. Mm-hmm. But the cabinetry detail, which I think is really smart, was we added these plywood panels onto the existing cupboard doors, and they were like stapled in. So at any point, if we need to take it out, we can take them off and just touch it up and repaint it for the real homeowner.
Yeah. I love that. Going back once again to smaller spaces,
Yeah.
the kitchen kind of spills out into the dining room and the lounge. Were there any challenges that you faced in kind of making it all work together?
Again, it was the color palette, and by neutralizing the whole space, and that's why black is such a predominant color here, we were able to carry the theme throughout the whole house, which I think is really key. And even with the wine bar that we've put here, the client is an avid wine collector. Utilizing black again as the key feature and just a subtle touch of warmth from a wood point of view really just elevated the kitchen to make it feel more of a bar than an actual kitchen.
Oh, wow, Dylan, I love this space. As we have spilled from the kitchen now into the dining room, there's so many beautiful accents. I am caught by the lights, I'm caught by the chairs, I'm caught by this gorgeous dining room table. You've got to tell me more.
So I love how you've actually caught on to all those things, which is really good. But the thing for me, because it's a small space, the utilization of iconic furniture was key. So using the Serge Mouy light fitting here, which was of paramount importance because of the way you can move it around. So it actually creates this slight movement that you can alter the way the light goes, which I think is really great. And these Vitra standard chairs, which are just iconic for me. What I love about these chairs, they have a bit of a school resemblance to it, which I think is really lovely, and paired with this reclaimed wood table. So you mix in the different centuries together, which I think is timeless and iconic, and it really works in these small spaces.
I love that. Dylan, you're known for your beautifully layered interiors, from soft neutrals to accents of black, which are all very present here. Love it. Where do you find balance?
Wow, I love that, and thank you. For me, it's playing with the juxtaposition of texture and how textures interact with each other, which I think is really important. And then just using texture in its natural form and bringing that to life. And that really elevates the space in a really beautiful way. So we have metal, we have wood, we have ceramic. We also have a paint finish, which I think is really important, which is the backdrop of the walls. So when you take all of those and you mix them together, and you spool this out, exactly. No, but it is making sure that we get the balance right and making sure that you have the right amount of black, the right amount of naturals, and the right amount of textures. That all just brings it together in such a beautiful way.
I want to ask if this was here originally, but I feel like this was a Dylan edition.
This definitely was a Dylan edition. The thing for me with this was, because we needed to add a bit of a home office because the client comes down here on holiday, whatever it is, and loves to entertain. So how do you incorporate a bit of a bar area without it looking like a server or a counter and a little bit tacky? So we wanted to incorporate this unit, and I think this is what's really important is when you have a rental, you can design these units and put them in and take them with you when you leave, right? Which I think is really important.
Really cool.
Yeah, totally. It's a vibe.
Stay with us as after the break, Dylan takes us through the rest of the transformation of this finest apartment. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're visiting an apartment that enjoyed a very unique update. Tenants that wanted to elevate the look and feel of their rental home to match that of a finest home. The designer that took this outdated apartment to the next level is Thomaz of Curacion Interior. He has created a home that speaks to the client's needs, while offering the option to change it back to its original state when they decide to end their rental agreement. I'm fascinated to check out the lounge, but this view, Dylan,
It's incredible, right?
My goodness, it is so beautiful.
Imagine waking up to this every day.
I would not mind at all. We have to talk artwork,
Yes.
because one thing that I love about any space that I'm in is the artwork, and I see some beautiful artwork over there, but it seems to be suspended for some reason. Please explain.
It's a magic trick. No, I think for me, because were limited with wall space within this living room, and I wanted to make sure that the view was the hero, suspending the art was the only way forward, especially behind curtains, right? So you have this layer upon layer upon layer, which I think is really tactile and sophisticated.
Very nice. Wave to the future. Pretty cool.
Solving problems.
Dylan, I just love the layout of this space. From the ground up, take us through the design of the lounge.
This space for me was really important to the home, especially because of the view that we have in front of us, because it faces the ocean. So I didn't approach it from a a normal point of view, I really wanted to turn it on its head. So from the ground up, we have this oversized jute rug, which I think was really great. It creates this mini island within the space, and it also demarcates it from the rest of the house, which I think is really important. And then we looked at how could we make it feel bigger. So we looked at bigger furniture pieces. So this couch I'll be sitting on, which I think is really lovely. It's just over 3 meters, which is quite lush, especially in a smaller space.
Yeah.
But we also didn't put any sides on them because it would limit it and would feel more boxed in, so it feels a lot more open. And then we looked at how we could introduce iconic furniture pieces. So that we have the Vasily chair here, which I absolutely love. It's iconic, but what we did was we added a different spin onto it. We had it recovered in linen versus the leather that it originally comes in, which helps ground the space and just adds to this Mediterranean undertone that we've got here, which I think is really lovely.
Dylan, something that I don't see very often is a day bed in the lounge. That is a beauty.
And the thing about it is such a luxury feature, and because most spaces are really small, and because we had the vast space here, I thought it would be a beautiful accent piece to add, especially where it's positioned. It looks out onto the ocean, so it's a great place to read a book, which I think is really lovely. The other thing that we really looked at was the tactility of it. So we've wrapped a couple of pieces in sheep fur with linen. It just adds to the tactility that makes the space feel warm and comfortable, and utilizing that with the neutral tones just brings it to life.
Does. Things that also bring this place to life. We talked about the bigger items and they're absolutely stunning, but it's the smaller ones that add that sense of character and playfulness and just beauty to a place. Take us through some of the smaller pottery pieces, especially those behind you.
So for me, that's actually the details where it really matters, because the big pieces are lovely anchor pieces, but where you really tell the story is with the smaller features and the smaller pieces. So all the pottery that we have here is all handmade, which I think is firstly super important, and I don't think we give enough praise to that. But the other thing that it does is it just tells a story of how universes and how worlds can collide into one. So we have the Zulu pot there, which is a 20th century type. Next to it is the antique Chinese water jar. It's just so beautiful how you can mix these two worlds together in such a classic way that makes it feel timeless.
Dylan, let's talk about the bedrooms for a second. Now, I know that a bedroom can be transformed with beautiful furniture, luxurious linen, but how do you create that opulent feel while keeping in mind that a client will only be renting for a year or two?
Love that question, because I think that is actually quite a tricky one to meet. For me, within the master bedroom here was to elevate the space. We got a king size, extra length, 4-poster bed, and to give it that holiday feel, but also a timeless feel, we draped it with linens. So when you're in bed, you feel like could be anywhere in the world, right? You can escape into your dreams. Yeah. But for me, by doing that with larger furniture pieces that are fairly neutral, that definitely helps to elevate the space, especially in a rental or even in your own home. But then adding the tactility to the space. So even on the bed, the way the bed's made, the throw, the inner, the quality of the inner of a duvet cover is super important. One of the things that I wish people would do more of is treat a master bedroom like a master bedroom and add that living space. And what we've done here, we've added 2 beautiful chairs, a little table and a lamp where you could either put your shoes on in the morning, or you could sit there and have a coffee, or just catch your breath before you climb into bed. It just makes it feel more elevated and more sophisticated. And then looking at lighting. Lighting is also really important because nobody wants harsh lighting in the night.
True story.
You do not want that. And also when you wake up now in winters, it's just awful. So soft lighting is really important too.
Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning with regards to the changes to the apartment, were there any changes that had to be made to the bedroom, especially things like cabinetry?
Yeah, because I wanted to keep continuity throughout the space without it making it feel too dark, because the paneling throughout the house, which is really lovely and it's a great feature, I didn't want to carry that through into the bedrooms because I felt like it would be too heavy. So for me, the only way we could carry on the same detailing was with the cabinetry. So we just put the same details as we did in the kitchen into the bedrooms, which just made it feel a little bit more timeless, and it made it feel like it was planned from the start, as if this was a brand new build. And then just keeping everything quite neutral.
And then with the bathrooms, I love bathrooms, but I know that updating a bathroom can sometimes become quite a costly exercise. How do you kind of maneuver around that, keeping in mind what the client wants?
Bathrooms, like kitchens, really define a space.
Yeah.
And we were really lucky with this space because the bathrooms are wrapped in travertine, which is the same as the flooring throughout the apartment, which is really good. So we dodged a bullet.
Okay.
But where we had to look at updating the elements was we had to update the towel rail, which was white, and now we've made it chrome. We ripped out all the old vanities and we put in brand new vanities, which was slightly more costly, but it gave it that contemporary feel. But also we added the same elements of the panel detailing that we have throughout the apartment, but we just painted it white. So it wasn't too harsh, but it has the same feel. One of the other limitations we had in the bathroom was the showers are quite interesting. They're oval, which isn't what we're used to from a trend point of view. Lots of showers now are either square or rectangle. Yeah. And we really did struggle to find a solution that is timeless and sophisticated to put a new front on. So we had to just leave those, but we changed the shower head, so that makes it look better.
After the break, we talk lighting with Heather Boating and get some valuable styling tips from Dylan to enhance any living space. In today's episode of Finest Homes, we're visiting a seafront apartment where Dylan Thomaz worked with the tenants to update an outdated apartment to meet their dream of a refined rental home. Before the break, Dylan guided us through some of the changes that had a profound impact while keeping in mind that the apartment needed to be able to return to its original state when the client or current tenants leave the property. Before we get to effective styling tips from Dylan, we sit down with interior designer Heather Boating to get her take on different types of lighting and the importance of choosing the right lights for the task at hand.
So the role in lighting with residential projects is certainly going to be creating a sense of ambience in your space, as well as an overall general mood, which I think is going to be so important. You can obtain these two by either natural light, so we'll encourage the use of in architecture big windows and glass to let that natural light come through, or there'll be three sort of general rules of lighting that you can incorporate in those hard-to-get places from the natural light aspect. So I would define three key roles in lighting that you can incorporate in your interior. The one being general lighting. So that defines sort of all the ambient light that you would then bring through, such as wall lights, chandeliers, lighting throughout passages, for instance, maybe just your overall general sense of lighting within a home. So then the second would be your task lighting, and that would be really incorporated for those specific needs and areas, such as desk lamps in a study. It would also be important that over your kitchen counter, for instance, that you would still have your general lighting switched on, for instance, but you would still allocate a specific task light over your countertop in order to continue cooking and allocate those high-risk applications. Then the last one would be your ambient lighting. So that could also bring in a lovely personality to a room, such as chandeliers or a lamp in a corner. And I think in today's designs, you can really dictate that overall aesthetic and theme that you're going for by applying something really quirky. So then something personal like your lamp, for instance, or your chandelier. I think one of the key questions often asked with the lighting is cold light or warm light. For me, I think there's a general overall theme that you need to follow. Warm light tends to be incorporated into your interiors and your homely spaces. It certainly evokes that sense of coziness and warmth that you want to introduce there. Cool light is applied to open, vast spaces, and I think that's when you want to just hero that vastness and open space. It would be important that for galleries and art, you would really need to consult with the installer, because I think it would be very important that you allocate a light that reflects natural light, if that makes any sense. You want to imitate as much of a natural lighting temperature to give the art the best possible showcase over there. So when we're discussing feature lights, I think it's important to note that we're not going to be adding to the ambient or the general lighting of a home. With these feature lights, we're going to be looking at creating more of that interior, more of those sculptural pieces. So you'll be looking at a really interesting pendant light, for instance, or a chandelier that creates almost that wow factor when stepping inside. You can also have a look at a really beautifully designed lamp, for instance, whether it be table or floor lamp. Mixed metals, I think, would also be a lovely contribution to adding a feature to the home as well as light. Then you're going to be looking at some recessed LED applications. These can often be found going up some staircases, as well as seen in some wardrobes and inside bar areas, which I think just allows for that softenedness, but still creates a little bit of a mood and an ambience that you can bring in.
Today's feature house is an exercise in what is possible when it comes to a rented home. Interior designer Thomaz has implemented aesthetic upgrades that elevates the interior of this apartment to a finest home status. But even small additions can bring a sense of considered refinement to your home. Dels, I have to congratulate you. You have managed to create an absolute oasis from a place that had many limitations, let's be honest, from some impactful additions that the client can replace or remove should they decide to leave, to some thoughtful additions that make you want to stay in this apartment forever and never leave. Are there any tips, style tips or beautiful additions that you can give our viewers at home that can help them make a dramatic impact with minimal input?
Firstly, love that, so thank you. And secondly, I think it's really important to really look at your space and look at what you have and simplify it, because I think some people love clutter, and because more is more, it's not more is more, and it messes with how you feel and things like that. And I do feel by simplifying it, you can really make things better. And things that I think that are really important is foraging, like adding greenery from your garden or from the side of the road with a pair of secateurs, you can do wonders. And it's not to say you can replace, this needs to be replaced from flowers, because flowers are really beautiful, but I always find that when you keep things simple, like just some white flowers or some simple greenery, it really does elevate it. And what I love about the greenery component is it's very organic. It has its life of its own. It's not store-bought. It doesn't feel manufactured. And I think that's what a lot of homes need, is this unmanufactured simplicity.
What is the rule of thumb when it comes to dressing your coffee table?
So the thing for me is I still find it challenging to do that. But I think to create a paint by number solution, which is really simple and easy, would be get some beautiful ceramics, a couple of books, which have beautiful covers, some tea light candles that are in beautiful candle holders, and some vignettes or some decor pieces that you can layer with. And then divide it into 3 sections and give more space to the vases or the vessels that have greenery or flowers in them, so it just feels like they've been spaced out. Layer the coffee table books and give it like 2/3 rule, and then 1/3 to the candles, which is just a nice way to elevate the space. And at night, it's a lovely tradition to just light your candles and say thanks for the day, and then dress it with some vignettes, like some beads or a bowl, which is just makes it feel homely, right?
I love it. The perfect equation for the best dressed coffee table. I'm here for it. Shall we move on to the bedrooms? What are your tips for creating a really beautiful bedroom space, from how do you dress the bed, textures, layering, colors? What is important to remember?
Wow.
A lot.
But I think the best thing is, for me, you spend so much time in bed, so making sure that you have the best linen that you can afford, because I think that's the key thing. Yeah. And make sure it's all very neutral and not too bright, because I think at night when you go to bed, or a Sunday afternoon snooze, you need to feel calm and tranquil. So I would always start with a white base of a fitted sheet, and then a flat sheet which you tuck in really beautifully. I love to layer my duvet and let the bed breathe, so I love to fold it in a certain way, which really just adds to the tactility and also the volume, because the bed, if it has lots of volume, it really does feel lush, right? Like lots of pillows consisting of like a king cushion as well as a standard cushion, and it just gives you that height which makes the bed feel quite sophisticated. And then I also look at how you can contrast between the covers for the king cushion as well as the standard, so that it just feels like there are more layers to it, and then just rounding it off with a beautiful throw.
Wow, I love it. When it comes to colors, what would you suggest?
More neutral, the better. That's where my stance on it is. I love very neutral tones, using white as the base and then just layering it with different shades of stone. And then the contrast where you can really add the contrast would be from a throw point of view, or making your king cushion a darker color compared to the rest of it. I think that's how you can play with color.
That's it for this week's episode.